John was clothed in camel's hair with a leather belt around his waist. This description, taken from our gospel reading from St. Mark chapter 1, verse 6. Isn't this clothing of John the Baptist curious? He wore nothing but camel's hair with a leather belt around his waist. It is so curious that it begs us to pay attention to it, because it is a deliberate mention of clothing which has a reason. There are no accidents in the sacred scriptures. The camel's hair with a leather belt around his waist carries us back to the Old Testament, to the person of Elijah. The second book of Kings, chapter 1, specifically describes Elijah as wearing a hairy garment with a leather girdle about his loins. This kind of clothing was a sign of asceticism and prophetic calling. Elijah is recognized as being who he is as a prophet and ascetic by what he wears. So too is John the Baptist. John the Baptist is the Elijah of the New Testament. He comes preaching a baptism of repentance. He is the messenger of God, preparing the way for God's Son. In the magnificent iconography of the Orthodox Church, St. John the Baptist is pictured often with wings, like an angel, to bring home this very point. He flies, as it were, into the history of salvation, like an angel messenger from God, so that we, the hearers of his message, can welcome the one who is mightier than he. All of this proclaims to me the beauty of Advent and Christmas, because no one important sends an unattractive messenger ahead of him. No government would send an obnoxious ambassador to talk to a head of state. Pope Benedict XVI speaks of how the ministers of the Church are supposed to be these messengers. If John the Baptist is a precursor to Christ, then he is also a precursor to Christ's body, the Church. And what is the prophetic message? As Pope Benedict will say, you are regarded with eyes of love, for that is what Christmas means. You see, Christmas is about love, and beauty and love are intimately attracted. We take our cue for love from John the Baptist. I am not worthy, he says, to stoop and loosen the thongs of his sandals, St. John says of Christ. Only someone who loves can say something like that. Only someone who loves is able to say, I must put myself aside so that he might increase. Advent prepares us for love's incarnation with its beauty. I think the world has desperate need of this message. Every time I pick up the newspaper or turn on the evening news, I get a little sick. Haven't we had enough of this ugliness? We are exposed to it so much, we begin to think it's normative, that this is the way it's supposed to be. The corruption, the abuse, the murder, the violence, the sexual excess, the anger. The message of Christmas, with Advent as its preface, has nothing to do with this and acts as a corrective to the egotism and selfishness of the age. One of my favorite statues of St. John the Baptist is by a French artist in the 19th century. It's located in the Musée d'Orsay in Paris. John stands clad with a leather girdle about his loins, to quote 2 Kings. He is seen as a young man in fulfillment of the gospel canticle from St. Luke chapter 2, which reads, "And you, child, will be called prophet of the Most High." He raises his right hand, pointing to heaven. In the left, he holds the cross, the symbol of the one whose advent he foretells. Some think that Edgar Degas, one of the leading impressionists of the age, did the sketch for this bronze statue in Rome. The statue's history, what it represents, its meaning, its message, its basis in the Old Testament, its fulfillment in God's plan in the New Testament. To all of this, the bronze figure gives testimony. So do the Gospels. These truths silence the ugliness and sordidness of the world. Everything the statue represents seems to contradict the world and its values, as we might add, the Gospels themselves. Repeating the observation of Pope Benedict about Advent and Christmas, you are regarded with eyes of love. This is John's message. The prophet in camel's hair with a leather belt, so simple, yet profound, so imposing, yet beautiful, so stark, yet loving.